Let me tell you something. Nothing gets your blood pumping in January like getting slapped with a $200 fine for being too neighborly. Yeah, you heard that right. Not a ticket for speeding, not for having a meth lab in the basement. No, I got nailed for excessive vehicle idling because I was out there, middle of a Minnesota winter, plowing snow at dawn for free. You know that saying, no good deed goes unpunished? Yeah, I'm living proof. So let me back up a sec. My name's Quentin Harper. I live out in Meadowbrook Estates. That's this cookie-cutter development west of Minneapolis, where the HOA fees are high and the sense of humor is pretty much non-existent. I own a decent two-story colonial, bought it after my contracting business took off, and since I do construction for a living, I also own a Ford F-350 with a plow big enough to move a small house. Here's how winter works out here. Every time the sky dumps snow, which, let's be honest, is half the year, I'm up at 4 a.m., pulling on boots and starting that diesel engine while the rest of the world's still dreaming about palm trees and margaritas. And instead of just clearing my own driveway and calling it a day, I'd make a loop through all 8 streets in the neighborhood. That's 47 homes. For free. Not because the HOA asked, and certainly not because I like losing sleep, but because, well, I grew up in Minnesota. Out here, neighborly isn't just a word, it's survival. Now, officially, the city only clears the main road. Everything inside our development, that's on us. And while we all shell out $200 a month to the HOA for services, snow removal is suspiciously absent from that list. Usually, folks would just hunker down until enough sun melted a path. But when I moved in, I figured, hey, I've got the equipment. Why not be helpful? So for 3 winters running, I did it. Never once asked for a dime. But then, one day, a Tuesday, classic, I stop for coffee after a round of plowing, step outside, and there it is. A bright yellow slip under my wiper, accusing me of breaking Community Code Section 12, for B. Excessive vehicle idling. $200, due immediately. I just stood there in the quick stop parking lot, steam rising from my mug, thinking, is this a joke? Turns out, it wasn't. And the HOA? Or really just Patricia Hendress, the board president with a helmet of blonde hair sharp enough to slice cheese, decided to make an example out of me. With her was Karen Whitmore, the community manager. Karen had this superpower for sniffing out infractions, real or imagined. I swear, if your grass hit 2.1 inches, she'd show up with a ruler and a citation. Anyway, the fine said I'd been caught idling my truck 3 separate times for more than 5 minutes. What it didn't say is why. Like, for example, that I was outside, in -5-degree wind chill, shoveling out Mrs. Chin's driveway because she's 83 and lives alone. Or that the Robinsons' kid has cerebral palsy and their driveway's basically a ski slope when it's icy. I wasn't out there joyriding in neutral. I was helping people. So I go home, toss the fine on the kitchen counter. My wife, Amanda, she's a nurse, born and raised even farther north, picks it up and just shakes her head. They're fining you for plowing? She says, in this weather? Your truck has to idle or it'll die. She's right, but logic doesn't live in HOA land. Now, here's the part where, if this was a Hallmark movie, I'd stand up and fight the injustice right then. But I'm not a saint. I was tired and, frankly, pissed off. So I decided, fine, they want to punish me for helping? I'll stop helping. I paid the ticket and, next time it snowed, I rolled over and slept in. When I did finally head out for work, the streets were untouched, deep in powder. My plow stayed up. Did I feel guilty? Not even a little. The texts started rolling in before noon. Hey Quentin, you okay? Streets didn't get plowed. Everything all right? I told them all the same thing. Got fined for plowing. Won't be doing it anymore. Sent them a photo of the ticket for good measure. The neighborhood Facebook group? Pure chaos. People losing their minds. Margaret Wu almost slid into a mailbox. Dave Thompson's crunching numbers. Everyone tagging Patricia and Karen, demanding answers. Patricia finally posts one of those classic, passive-aggressive HOA missives. The board regrets any confusion. All residents must follow the code. The board takes no pleasure in issuing fines, but rules exist for harmony, yada yada. Oh, and for the record, the board is exploring cost-effective solutions for future snow events. Translation: do nothing and hope for a warm front. You ever watch a whole neighborhood descend into anarchy, but Like suburban style? No one's flipping cars or looting Target, but the streets get worse and worse with each storm. The HOA still doesn't hire anyone. Karen's fancy white Lexus got stuck on a hill. I may or may not have watched her try to dig herself out, then give up and back down the long way around. Some neighbors thought I was being petty. It's just $200, Quentin. Some of us really need those streets cleared. But here's the thing. If you let people walk all over you for doing the right thing, pretty soon there's nobody left willing to do it. I'd given 3 years of my life, middle of the night hours, Christmas mornings, no thanks needed, and my reward was a fine. It all boiled over at the emergency HOA meeting. They held it at the clubhouse. Usually only 8 people show up, but this time, the parking lot was overflowing. Inside, Patricia and her board sat behind a table, trying to look important. Karen, in her business casual battle armor, ready to record every snipe. Patricia tried to push through budget reports, insurance premiums, landscaping bills, the usual snooze fest, but people weren't having it. Dave Thompson, the unofficial voice of reason, started poking holes in the numbers. Turns out we had $130,000 in reserves for emergencies. But they'd never actually spent a dime on, emergencies. When we finally got to the real issue, Margaret Chun, bless her, stands up. He was shoveling my driveway because you won't do it. And you find him? She was so fierce in that moment, the whole room broke out in applause. Patricia's banging her pen. Karen's typing like she's auditioning for Jeopardy. Dave jumps in. Who's being disturbed by truck noise at 4:30 a.m.? Silence. So you dusted off a random rule to punish a guy for helping his neighbors. That's when I stood up. My voice wasn't shaking, but my hands were. I'm not causing problems. I paid the fine. I'm done plowing. You want to enforce your rules, fine, but I'm not volunteering to get punished anymore. Karen, all condescension, no one asked you to plow the streets. And that was true. Nobody asked. But you know what else nobody asked for? Unplowed roads, elderly residents stuck indoors, kids missing school buses. Patricia promised they'd obtain quotes for a professional plowing service. Dave, ever prepared, read off his phone. That'll be $6,000 to $10,000 a season. Where's that money coming from? Patricia hemmed and hawed. Someone accused them of planning a special assessment. Code for, you guessed it, more fees. The meeting unraveled. People shouted. The board adjourned in a huff, and everyone left angrier than they arrived. In the parking lot, neighbors thanked me for what I'd done, apologized that it came to this, swore to get the board replaced. Margaret hugged me. Dave said he was starting a recall petition. I'm not running for president, if that's what you're asking. No, but I need signatures. Amanda said, might as well finish what they started. So I signed. That winter was the stuff of nightmares. Storm after storm. Streets a disaster. Patricia sent out emails about pending contracts that never materialized. People parked at the bottom of hills and trekked home in boots. Rumors flew that Patricia had family in a snow removal business and was waiting for a cushy deal. Dave's petition gained steam. Soon he had enough signatures for a recall election. Patricia tried to block it on a technicality. Dave brought in a lawyer. That's when things got ugly. Suddenly, everyone who signed Dave's petition got a citation. For mailboxes, for garbage cans, for Margaret's bird feeder, which apparently was an unapproved structure. Margaret called me in tears. I just like watching the birds. It was pure, targeted retaliation. The next meeting, Dave brought his attorney, a sharp woman named Dan. She stood up, called it textbook retaliation and illegal under Minnesota law. Patricia, flustered, tried to gavel her down, but it was over. Diane threatened a lawsuit. The room erupted, and the board literally walked out, leaving us all sitting there. By the next week, the story hit local news. Margaret got interviewed, holding her bird feeder like a battle flag. The Attorney General launched an investigation. Here's the twist. When Dave finally got access to board records, he found out Patricia never even tried to hire a plow service. Just contacted one company once, got a quote, and never replied. She'd hoped the whole mess would fade. The recall election? Landslide. Patricia and her cronies out. Dave and some other good neighbors in. First order of business. Fix the rules. Make everything transparent. Pay me a fair rate to plow. I refused the check. Just asked for the dumb idling rule to be scrapped. They did, and I was back out there with my truck, doing what I always did. only now with everyone's blessing. But Patricia wasn't done. She sent me, and half the neighborhood, a cease and desist letter claiming defamation, demanding $50,000. I called Diane. She laughed. Ignore it. Turns out Patricia and Karen had been using the HOA credit card for personal expenses, too. Dinners, shopping, even vacations. All labeled admin costs. The AG referred them for prosecution. Felony charges. Community funds recovered. That summer, the neighborhood changed. Block parties. Smiles in the streets. People actually talking to each other. Amanda said, "You started this." I said, "I just stopped plowing." But she was right. Standing up, even if it's scary, even if it costs you, is worth it. And then, this is the part that gets me, Margaret Chin passed away the next spring. Her grandson called, handed me an envelope at the funeral. Inside was a letter and a $20,000 check from the sale of her house. "Use it to help others," she wrote. "You made my last years better and safer and happier." Amanda and I donated half to a senior center, set up a scholarship in Margaret's name, and saved the rest for family. The next winter, I was back up at 4 a.m., coffee in hand, truck rumbling, plow dropped. Neighbors waved. Margaret's bird feeder stood in her old yard, now with 2 new ones beside it. That first snow, I cleared the streets, took a thermos of coffee from Margaret's new neighbors, and drove home with a smile. No fines, no drama, just a job done right. And you know what? Sometimes it takes losing something, or stopping, for people to realize what matters. Sometimes you have to stand up and say enough for anything to change. The $200 fine that started all this? Amanda framed it, hung it in my garage. A reminder, sometimes justice needs a spark, sometimes good people have to take the hit first, and sometimes, when you push back against the bullies, the whole neighborhood stands up beside you. So tell me, what would you have done? Is it ever right to fight the rules when they punish good deeds? Have you ever stood up for something that cost you? I'd love to hear your stories. Drop a comment, share your take on what justice means where you live. Because, honestly, the only way things ever get better is if we make a little noise, together.